During the break, something came up. Incidentally, our soldiers, our police officers, whether they belong to Jubilee or NASA or whichever political dispensation, put their lives on the line for us Kenyans. So this should be a bipartisan. It should cut across the political divide, finding a solution to our security situation. A number of issues raised, mainly anchored on the Jubilee manifesto. Mheshimiwa Karanja Kabage, your response?
Yes, first, I want to acknowledge that matter of security is of concern to every Kenyan. And I also want to say that there is no equipment that is invisible. And we have seen that in Afghanistan, we have seen that in Iran, we have seen that in Syria, we have seen that across the board. And we must also acknowledge that with the best of will, issues of security, they have assumed an international dimension. And when you look at what has happened in London, in England, for the last 3 months. 3 months. It is an issue that has made anybody who is looking at matters of security realize we have an international challenge, all of us. And nobody should pick vulnerability of a country and ascribe it to either omission or acts of commission. Because first of all, security is very expensive in terms of equipment, in terms of even training, and in terms of being up to date, whichever way. Because what are you dealing with? You're dealing with international criminals. And these international criminals are sponsored sometimes by very interesting countries. I'll give you an example. Take the action of 6 Arab countries that have severed the relationship
with Qatar.
For what reason? Qatar is alleged to be funding ISIS,
the Muslim Brotherhood,
and others. These have been allegations. And when you come to a country like Kenya that is so vulnerable in terms of its budgetary capacity to be able to provide, what I would suggest to fellow Kenyans is that when it comes to a question of issues and matters of security, that we devolve politics from this particular aspect, because I don't believe there is any sane Kenyans that will sit down and act in a manner that puts the country in jeopardy. And if that exists truly and sincerely, you are being a traitor to this country.
Thank you very much, Bwana Kabage. Bwana Matangi, very quick one on this.
Yes, thank you. Let me first start by thanking Ken for being very eloquent on the Jubilee Manifesto. And I can gladly say that at least now I know you know the benefits of having a manifesto. Now that NASA, NOCOD, has had one for all the time it has existed. But you know, now that you refer to the manifesto, you know, I want to say that yes, indeed the issues of security in this country cannot be politicized. The question of how do we deal with questionable tendering, it is all clear. I mean, we've seen by example what has happened to the tenders that have been challenged. You know, the ones that were awarded by IEBC, there's a very clear process of law. If you have any tender that you think is questionable, it's open. Especially for parliamentarian, you can go and challenge it either on the floor of the House, take it to court. We've seen that works. So in case there are any that either Ken or his side of the political divide think that would require to be relooked at, that's open, that can be looked at. Lastly, I think my friend here, Karanja, can said it also, that issues of security are not political issues. We have to ensure that the security of every Kenyan, and especially KDF forces who are fighting for this country, and the police, and all our other military organs, we should ensure that they are secure. What we need to make clear is that, especially when he refers to the quality of the armored personnel vehicles that were purchased. Most of the time, if you look at what descriptions are normally given when one purchases an armored vehicle, you're told this armored vehicle is only supposed to help you probably to get away from danger or to safety as fast as possible. And depending on, but those are technical issues that I don't want to dwell on so deeply. But you know, those vehicles are not intended or designed to go and land on 2-ton mines and fly in the air and come back and start driving. It's in the overall, but I agree entirely that we need to ensure that security of our people, their safety, even the quality is enhanced all the time.
Thank you very much. We are running short of time, but I just have just about 2 minutes, and so I'll be giving each of you just a few seconds. Mheshimiwa Kirwa, I'll start with you. As you give your closing remarks, your take on the editorial piece on the Daily Nation, public officers must keep off campaigns as stipulated.
Well, just because before I get there, it's important that if I'm buying this cup, let the specifications in the documentation be the reality on the cup. So I'm not disputing what you are saying, but it is not entirely true that some of these vehicles meet the standards that are described by some of the suppliers. And that is something that worries us. We are not worried, and we are not saying as politicians we want to take over the security of the country. We've given that to the president and the presidency, and also the officers of government charged with that responsibility. On this issue, there are a number of things. The laws are very clear. The public officers ought to understand they're actually exposing themselves, because, and I've said it before, elections can only be determined by counting the last vote. It is not entirely true, the way some of our brothers on the other side of the divide, that this thing is already wrapped up for them. On the 8th of August, Kenyans are going to vote, and it can go either way. Some of these officers are necessarily exposing themselves with the hope that they will retain the positions they are holding. It is not entirely true. Things can change.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa Kabadi.
Yeah, I agree that in this country, one of the most important things is that we must defer to the law all the time, because a nation is civilized to the extent that we are able to obey the constitution and the laws of this country. So to me, everybody must defer to the law. The last thing I want to say, and it's going to be part of our conversation here, is I'm very worried for this country and its future, particularly with respect to a new development that has taken place. This is to do with betting. We are going to be in a very serious problem as a country if we don't take this issue very seriously. And I'll give the example of South Africa. The greatest economic and social disruption that is happening in South Africa, particularly among the black miners and the poor South Africans, is betting. And there are very good examples. South Korea, which is one of the biggest economies in this world, they banned citizens of that country from betting. China banned the citizens from betting. And in South Korea, if you wanted to bet, you have to fly from another country. In fact, there are very many Chinese who are flying to Korea, South Korea, to go and bet, because they will not allow betting, because it is a very disruptive practice. And the tragedy today is this: we are dealing with the technology. The betting now is with even children, school kids.
That's a whole topic. Maybe we need
this
to
is an issue.
But
I'm very, very concerned. And I do hope we have distinguished Parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly. Please interrogate this as far as the future of our nation is concerned.
Thank you very much. Bwana Wamatangi, I have 30 seconds, and of course Ken Okoth.
Yeah, I think I would want to comment on the issue of public officers campaigning, which is the issue that he brought. And I think we also need a serious harmonization of law itself, and especially when determinations are made in court. remember there's a voter who went to court in Kericho, and that voter went to plead in court and said that if members of parliament are going to be in parliament all the way up to June, or even after June,
up to August,
and they're supposed to still enjoy tenure and campaign, where other public officers being asked to resign from their offices to go and campaign. And the court gave an order and said there has to be fairness, that a public officer can still remain in office. And now here already, on the other side of the law, we have already officially commenced campaigning. That conflict, for example, because one court order here says that a public officer can still retain their office until such a time when we, now the politicians, exit, and then you have an official campaign time declared. You'd be asking yourself, then what is that public officer in office supposed to do when there is an order saying that they can still remain in office and it's official campaign time and they are running for office? You get what I mean?
Okay.
And so definitely would need that harmonization, but by and large we would need to say that the country requires services. Some public officers like CSs, as you said earlier, in the course of articulating and mingling with the people, would really have to sell out what they're doing in their ministries and so on. It's not necessary.
Thank you very much. Ken Okoth, your final thoughts on this? The director is sitting on my ears.
So the first key point I would say is that, and my only point I'd say then, since the time is up, is today is the 8th, tomorrow is the 9th of June. It's the last 2 days for any Kenyan to go and verify you're registered as a voter. We're coming up to an important duty on the 8th of August. We need every Kenyan to go out and vote, to give us better leadership that focuses on our people, and you cannot vote if you're not on the voters register. So please go verify that you're on the voters register so we can have a clean and credible election, and it's left only today and tomorrow. Please don't put it off. Go verify you're a registered voter. We need your vote to give us change in this country. NASA is coming, the 5th president of Kenya, Raila Amolo Odinga. We have a vote. Verify your vote today.
Why is NASA coming to citizens?
Because we need the vote.
I wanted to correct one issue.
Yeah, we are running out of time.
We have a manifesto. We are going to
actually run out of time.
Yeah.
We are writing one.
No, we already have. Fair enough. There couldn't have been a better way to finish it than with the call by Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth. You have today and tomorrow. There will be nothing as bad as you turning up on 8th of August very early in the morning and you're told your details cannot be verified. Take the last 2 days, 48 hours. Make sure you go and verify your status as a voter so that you do not come back in September and start crying about poor leadership. Because as they say, bad leaders are elected by good citizens who do not turn up to vote. My name is Charles Odhiambo. On behalf of my panelists, Mheshimiwa Karanja Kabage, Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth, Mheshimiwa Kipruto Arap Kirwa, and Mheshimiwa Kimani Wamatangi, let's do this again tomorrow morning.